What's going on, you guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Who Gives a Dram. Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode, another week of Who Gives a Dram. Before we get into the episode, let's take care of a little bit of business. If you guys aren't already following the podcast, make sure you are following, subscribed on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. I'm sure Who Gives a Dram is on there, so make sure you're subscribed. Leave a rating on Apple Podcasts or on iTunes. A good rating and a 5-star review really helps out the show almost more than anything. And if you're watching the video podcast, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube as well. Hit the like button, leave some comments, and hit that little bell so you can get notified whenever I release a video, which is every Wednesday, as it has been. Also, you guys, if you want to check out the whiskey glass that I use every single week on the podcast, you can do so by visiting www.snootglass.com. Snoot Glass has the best whiskey nosing and tasting glasses on the market, plus a plethora of additional really, really top-notch whiskey and just drinkware altogether. So when you go to check out, use the promo code WGAD20. And you will get 20% off your entire order. So that is www.snootglass.com, promo code WGAD20. And last but not least, you guys check out the Grapevine Media. Grapevine Media brings you this podcast, www.thegreatvinemedia.com. So we are 33 episodes in of Who Gives a Dram. And I know you guys are probably thinking, Connor, we know you're from New England. You've been naming athletes at the beginning of each episode, signifying whatever episode it is. It's episode 33. We already know who you're going to do. And most of the time you'd be right. But there is one athlete that I think of when I think of the number 33, being from Boston. And let me tell you guys something. It's not who you think it is. Today is the Jason Varitek episode of Who Gives a Dram, you guys. And all due respect to Larry Bird, I'm sure some of you guys know who Larry Bird is, but Jason Varitek was like one of my all-time favorite catchers growing up, one of my all-time favorite athletes. I was number 33 for a long time. Number 33 was my favorite number for a long time. I have a signed picture from Jason Varitek, and I grew up like idolizing the guy. The captain of the Red Sox, one of the best defensive catchers of all time. Wasn't the best hitter, but he was part of that when the Red Sox hit back-to-back home runs in one game. Jason Varitek was part of that. But Jason Varitek also holds the record for the most no-hitters caught in a career. I believe one was from Tim Wakefield. I guess Carlos Ruiz has recently tied that. So I would say that Jason Varitek definitely is worthy of the episode 33 of Who Gives a Dram. And today we have a really, really good episode, you guys. I am joined by a very, very good friend of mine this week on the podcast, and he is somebody who I first connected with on Instagram, like right when I started the show, right when I started the Instagram page. Me and this guy connected, and we've been consistently keeping up with one another ever since. Have gotten pretty close with this guy, and we just have a fantastic conversation. We're both whiskey heads. We both love whiskey, and we both are dedicated to learning more about the spirit. And I think we both we both do podcasts. He does the Northern Proof, which I'll link down below in the episode description. And if you guys aren't already following Whiskey Sith, then you really should be. So today's episode, I'm joined by Darryl, aka Whiskey Sith. We're gonna review a bottle of MICHTER'S Small Batch Bourbon, and we sit down and just have a great conversation. It's fun. It's entertaining. I think you guys are really gonna enjoy it. So without further ado, you guys, here's my conversation with the Whiskey Sith. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning back into Who Gives a Dram. I am here with a good friend of mine, a good friend of the show's, and we've actually done a recording in the past, and due to technical issues, we couldn't get it out, but we're back here, and we're better than ever, ladies and gentlemen. I am here with the Whiskey Sith himself, Darryl. Darryl, how's it going, buddy?
It's going well. Yeah, it's too bad that first recording didn't work out. We had a great conversation going on, so we'll do it all over again.
Yeah, if it just means drinking more bourbon, like I'm fine with that.
Anytime you can pour whiskey or anything, you definitely got to do it, and it's even better when you're sharing it with good friends.
I absolutely agree. That's what it's for. So today, Darryl and I are going to get into some MICHTER'S Small Batch Bourbon. As you can see, mine's just about done. Probably do a bottle kill on the podcast today. But before then, Darryl, let's talk about, I know the story behind the Whiskey Sith, but I want the people to know. Go into detail. What made you create Whiskey Sith, and why Whiskey Sith? It's honestly, it's one of my favorite names on Instagram. But go into a little bit as to why you chose the Whiskey Sith.
Yeah, beyond my love of Star Wars, which growing up on the original trilogy, Return of the Jedi was one of the first movies I saw in theaters.
Oh,
So
I can't even imagine that movie experience must have been out of this world.
It definitely was, and it kind of shows my age. But also going back to my gamer days, before gaming was the rock star situation it is now, where kids are making millions of dollars playing video games. I always went by either Darth Ninja, Sith Lord, something like that as my handle, and it just evolved as my love of whiskey came into it, and was just pondering names one day, and that one just came to my head.
I get the same thing people ask me um, all the time. It's like, who gives a damn? How do you even think about that? And every single time I say, I was literally laying in bed, and I just was trying to think of unique names, and it honestly came to me in like 5 minutes. And I wrote it down. I slept on it. I woke up the next day. The ball got rolling on the podcast. But I do a Whiskey Sith. I'm I'm not a huge Star Wars guy, but I definitely have grown to love Star Wars even more. I was a big fan of uh, the prequels.
Right.
In the early 2000s. I still think they are very much undeservingly critiqued. I think they're great movies. I think Revenge of the Sith might be my favorite Star Wars movie.
Absolutely.
Do you concur or do you not concur?
I think they set up the story well. I definitely like Revenge of the Sith. It's a
Mm.
tough lightsaber battle to beat at the end.
Oh,
Um,
one of the best.
but I think they did well with the backstory on that. A few of us were sitting around a fire a couple weeks ago and actually talking about basically the same thing. How um, as time has gone on, the actual um, where those position out in the Star Wars universe really works well for the canon and for setting up the whole backstory um, of how Anakin became Darth Vader.
It's honestly, I could do a whole episode on Star Wars. We should do a whole episode we should do a bonus episode in the future, drinking whiskey, getting a little tipsy and talking Star Wars. I think
Talking
that'd be
Star
a great
Wars.
episode.
Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah, but quickly to hit on the lightsaber battle real quick. Definitely end of the Revenge of the Sith. Probably the best, but the opening like 10 seconds of Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan when he kills Qui-Gon Jinn, that choreograph
Yep.
lightsaber fight, that might be my favorite my lightsaber moment. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that intensity of the 10 seconds, like they're just quick,
Yep.
very quick 10 seconds, but that was a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. They did well with that. They put a lot of time into that.
But what made you actually, I guess what got you into whiskey, and what made you, say I'm gonna create an Instagram dedicated to this? I know you've told me in the past you're into photography, and you've been, teaching yourself more about photography. So does that have anything to do with creating an actual Instagram dedicated to whiskey?
Yeah, I don't know if I really thought it through. I have a marketing advertising background and kind of just wanted to see what I could do from building a brand up from scratch, um,
Interesting.
with just, a little time and a little effort. And life has happened and it's gotten busier, so there's still a lot of plans in the works of where Whiskey Sith may be heading. But yeah, that's kind of where I just started, and it gives me something to mess with my photography. And it's funny, I get a lot of feedback that people seem to like my photos and wonder how I take them and things like that.
Me being one of them.
Um, but when I take other photos, I just don't see the same thing as I get out of the whiskey shots. So everybody just says you must have some crazy love of whiskey, and that's showing through in the photos. But
You can tell that the love of whiskey is that the love of whiskey is for sure there. I mean, you have some awesome pictures that are actually very, very um impressive. Um do you use like an actual camera, right? Or do you just use your iPhone?
it depends what I'm up to. Yeah, some of it is probably 65% of it is my iPhone. Um, and then the other part will be my, what do I have? A Sony A7 III. So, with
Nice.
various lenses. And it just depends what I have on me at the time and what I'm doing.
Mm.
Um, some of the shots, so you pack a few bottles into a backpack and go for a hike somewhere and take the camera with you and do some shots. And other ones are very spur of the moment. Anything that's around, like inside the house, is very spur of the moment with an iPhone.
I was gonna ask, my next question was gonna be, have you ever taken a bottle and specifically went somewhere to take a picture? But you kind of just answered that question, because I've I don't think I actually have taken a bottle out into like the wilderness. I've taken it onto like the street and gotten cool angles with like the lights of downtown in the background.
Yep.
Um, I don't even think I've posted those pictures. I think they're just in my phone. Um, but I've never taken a bottle to a remote location that wasn't my house or my parents' house. So I think you've given me the inspiration to do that very soon. So I got to find an appropriate bottle to go on a hike with.
Yeah, and I'm
Um,
pretty lucky with it. I don't have to go too far. A lot of the scenic shots are along the fence line of our backyard, and about 200 acres behind that is actually, crown land. Uh, so I can go and basically drive back there and hike for 10, 15 minutes and be not surrounded by anything at all, versus having to drive very far into, uh, some wilderness area. And then other
yeah, but
shots are just camping.
we're the same way at my parents' house. We're next to a 1,000-acre game preserve. As
Nice.
our house borders that. So, I mean, 15 minutes of walking and you are in the middle of nowhere essentially, but there's
It doesn't
nice,
take long.
yeah, and the beach is right there. So I got to set up my photography game, man. You're inspiring me.
There's
Um,
lots of accounts to inspire to.
there sure is, man. There sure is. There really is. Um, so what I want to talk about what you gravitate towards with the whiskey. I think I'm gonna pour some in my cap, or not my cap, my cork broke off like when I first bought
Broken
the
cork.
bottle. So um that's done, but that's okay because we're gonna just finish that off.
There you
So
go.
bottle kill podcast. What's do you have any, well, first question is, do you have any whiskeys that you remember back in the day that kind of got you into whiskey? And then second question is, fast forward to now, what do you gravitate towards now, whether it's like a type of whiskey or a particular, like if you want to name any whiskey that you like to drink?
Yeah. Back in the day, it was anything you could mix with. That's kind of what got me started. Um, you just grab whatever's bar 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 rail whiskeys and drop some ginger ale or Coke or Pepsi in it.
Nice.
From there, I probably started um, moving into like Glenlivet was probably the first really memorable bottle I had. A client sent me a Glenlivet 18-year-old, and that's probably what really um, brought to life what whiskey is now to me, and where the enjoyment came from of actually enjoying a good whiskey. When somebody gives you an 18-year-old Scotch, you set it on your shelf and you don't mix it with anything. So it
Right.
kind of got me into that drinking things neat. From there, it's kind of grown into a hobby, not a habit. Um,
Right.
and I like to see what everybody's making out there. So I don't really gravitate towards a bourbon or a Scotch or Canadian whiskey or a rye. It's really just what's the mood, what's the season. Uh, Probably ryes and Scotch are more in the winter for me, just because
Right.
the ryes they warm you up. I love the heat that it gives you inside on a good rye, and the scotches. Slowly been getting into more of the Isla Scotch. Probably over the last couple of years was a big peat hater when I first got into scotches. Couldn't stand it, and taste buds evolve, and I've got lots of buddies that I keep handing them different Isla Scotches now, and one day one it's just gonna click with one of them. But yeah, I like those in the winter as well because they just remind me of sitting around a campfire in the summer, and that's
Absolutely.
and then bourbons and Canadian whiskeys is just see something sitting on my shelf and be like, yeah, that's what I want to pour tonight.
It's funny because I'm exactly the same way. Although recently, like within the past few weeks, I have been very, very much into Isla Scotches. And it's
Yep.
been some of the hottest months or hottest weeks of the year so far. But I'll be sitting down, be 80 degrees outside. I'll be pouring a uh, Lagavulin 16.
Yep.
I had a Lagavulin 16 the other, like 2 weeks ago. It was like 7 o'clock and it was so light outside, bro. It was really hot and humid that day. I was just drinking an Isla Scotch. No big deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I say I drink it mostly in the winter, but uh, same thing last Friday night. I was just sitting outside with a buddy and had a campfire going. It was probably still 75, 80 degrees out. And
Mm.
yeah, Lagavulin 16 was my choice for that night. Um,
Nice. There we go.
so
Hey, dude, great minds think alike. You know what I'm
it
saying?
just works. Yeah, it works well. It works well with a fire. Same with Lefroy. Quarter cask is one of my favorite favorite Islays
Right.
right now. Um, so it's like I said, I don't really gravitate to something. It's just what do I feel like at that point.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I'm a lot of the same way when it comes to that. I'll look at my whiskey shelf and it's mostly bourbon, so I'm thinking, all right, what's an easy pour for tonight? Do you drink? Do you have a dram every single night, or do you try to moderate it, like based on work schedule or the day you had? Is there stuff that you drink maybe that's like? Would you rather go for a red wine some nights and not have a whiskey, or maybe like a rum and coke or a beer, or is it always whiskey?
It's pretty much always whiskey, and it's really dependent on my mood. I absolutely will not pour anything if I'm feeling down. Um, it's just a road I won't go down. I've seen too much of where that leads to for um, family members, what my parents grew up with, not my parents themselves, but their parents. So I'm very aware of where I am emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if I feel like I'm down or feeling beat up by the day or by the week, I won't pour anything, whether that's whiskey or beer. It's something I'm very cognizant of.
You
Um,
gotta be, you gotta
yeah,
be.
outside of whiskey, I'm not a huge drinker of other things. I'll do like maybe vodka on the rocks, or I'm like that guy that goes to and grabs Bush Light for a beer. Like
Dude,
I don't.
Miller Light all day, every day. Well, not all
Yeah,
day, every day. If I'm drinking a beer, it's Miller Light.
yeah. I used to drink a lot of craft beer, but I don't know, something switched in my head and it gives me headaches now.
That's
So
because
yeah,
it's not very good.
yeah. Some of it's not. Some of it I really like a good stout or something like that. But yeah, just go grab something light, and usually it's because I'm drinking it in the summer on a hot day anyway, so I don't need
Yeah,
some heavy IPA or something.
I agree with that, man. Yeah, if I'm drinking a beer, it's definitely usually Miller Lite. I gravitate towards cocktails a lot too. Like I'll make a whiskey sour a lot.
Hmm.
And like a real whiskey sour too, like with the simple sugar and the lime juice and mixing it all up, not using just just whiskey sour mix.
Yeah.
Um,
So
vodka
question:
sodas.
do you include the egg or not the egg in the whiskey sour?
I can't do. Well, no, I don't. There's two reasons. One, and the main reason is because I would get too nervous and I would be afraid I'm gonna screw up the entire cocktail.
Yeah.
And the second reason is just because I don't know, it kind of turns me off a little bit. So, do you make your whiskey sours with the egg?
I I have not, no.
No.
But I'm sure I've had it at a restaurant where it's been made that way. My
Yeah.
go-to cocktail's an old fashioned. So
I've tried to get in old fashions. I really have because I'm like, listen, I'm some whiskey drinker now. Everyone, like all my friends know me as like, oh, you're the whiskey drinker. You got to just, you know, you need to know, you need to like everything whiskey. And I've really, really tried to get in old fashions and I just can't get into them. I don't know if
yeah,
it's only because I've had bad old fashions, but I don't know if I'd be able to tell a bad old fashioned from a good old fashioned, if I'm being completely honest.
yeah.
And what constitutes a good old fashioned?
I don't know, and there's so many different ways to make them.
Exactly.
Definitely for me, the whiskey chosen to go into it makes a difference. There's some whiskeys and bourbons that just do not make a good old fashioned,
Right.
um, whereas other ones make great old fashions.
Interesting.
Um, and yeah, I don't have kind of one thing that the Northern Proof Boys talk about is how the time it takes to make a cocktail. If I'm gonna pour something, I'm just gonna pour a whiskey neat or with a little water or over the rocks, and uh,
Yeah,
time
that's a
to
good
make a
point.
cocktail is kind of like by the time you've made it, you already want to be sitting down.
Yeah,
That's our
that's a good
personalities.
point. It's a good point. That's why it's just so easy just to grab a bottle. It's like, all right, I'm just gonna pour this in a glass and drink it, and it's gonna do the job, you know.
Yeah.
And it does. I mean, to me, and who maybe we're out of the ordinary, you and I, but whiskey neat is just it. There's nothing better to me. I just think it's better than any cocktail. It's better than any drink. There's three things, and said this on the podcast now, infamously. There's three things I drink: water, coffee, and whiskey. And you can add Metamucil into that because I do drink Metamucil too.
I
If
saw
you
that
haven't had
recent
Metamucil,
episode.
Darryl, you haven't had Metamucil, Darryl, you got to get on the train. I'm trying to get Metamucil to sponsor the podcast,
Sponsored
but
by.
dude, Metamucil, if you're listening, man, um, come on, jump on the Who Gives a Dram train. I drink you guys 4 times a week.
There you go.
Um, I had some. What's today? Tuesday. I had some yesterday, and I'm gonna have some tomorrow. Um, but uh, but yeah, it's nothing better than just a whiskey neat.
Yeah.
Nothing better than a whiskey neat. Speaking about whiskey neat, we got to get into this tasting. We got to
Yeah.
get into what we find here because this whiskey looks so lonely in the glass. I feel like it wants to get out of the glass and into my tummy.
It's just been sitting here opening up.
We like, you know, Darryl and I have done, we recorded the same episode a few months ago. So we've done this. I don't remember anything I've said about it. I don't have anything written down in terms of tasting notes, but I know what I'm getting on the nose, but I'm curious to know what you're getting.
Trying to pull what beyond the
Both
normal,
both smelling out of our snoot glasses, by the way.
the double walled stainless.
That's right. I like Daryl's a little bit more than mine, but that's okay.
It's these are the perfect glasses for being outside this time of year. You don't need
I
to
used
worry
it this
about
weekend.
smashing them.
I used it this Saturday. This past Saturday, I had a cigar outside by the pond at my cousin's house. I brought my own bourbon. I brought my own glass. This glass was
Yeah.
perfect.
I always pack them with me when I'm going somewhere to have a couple drams, whoever's house I'm headed to, and my wife laughs at me for taking my own, but everybody wants them
Hey
once you're
man,
there.
hey man. She just doesn't understand how the dedication we have to our whiskey.
I think she understands mine, but
Hey,
so I've
you
got
know.
some cheat notes on this one because I did do it in a blind tasting, and I didn't know it was Michter's bourbon when I was doing it.
Well, I'm curious to know. I through as with every episode, I write down the tasting notes, and I usually use Breaking Bourbon because it's almost become a gag in my head as to like Breaking Bourbon. The website always has like ridiculous tasting notes, so I always compare what I have with them, and so I have what they have, but I don't really get what they're getting. Let's put it this way: Breaking Bourbon says the nose should be light, a light nose with new oak, grain, and raisins. Do you agree or disagree?
I've got raisins in my list. So when I did this, and I'm pulling some of these right now, I had caramel, toffee, plums, raisins, cinnamon, vanilla, and a tad bit of honey in it. I'm definitely getting the honey.
Yeah, I'm getting a
Uh,
bit of honey too. I don't know if it's raisins, plums might be more appropriate, but it's a dark dried fruit.
it's a dark
I kind of
dried fruit.
gravitate maybe towards raisins a bit. But I'm getting like a very strong honey, like honey over everything. A
Mm-hmm.
little bit of
Yeah, I'm getting
vanilla.
a lot of honey tonight. I don't get the raisins. It's something fresher than a dried fruit.
Interesting. Really? What
And
kind of fruit do you
yeah,
think?
prob-
What kind of are you thinking?
I'm. It's definitely along the lines of plums. It's something dark.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm for me it's like it's honey and see I'm getting that dried fruit. I'm really getting It might be raisins. I don't know. It's maybe dried cherry. No, no. But the main thing is it definitely is a light nose.
Hmm.
It's a pleasant nose. It smells good, but it's nothing like it's gonna blow your socks off. It
Yeah,
smells like a typical young bourbon.
almost like plums and maybe a dried apricot.
Oh, that's a good one.
But yeah, it's not offensive on the nose. It's something I think you could hand to a new whiskey drinker that's not used to nosing, and it's not going to burn their nose hairs off. They're not going to back away from it, um, and I think they'll be able to pull kind of those standard notes out of it of what you get from a new oak barrel, your caramels, your vanillas, things like
The
that.
sweeter notes. Are you getting a little bit of tea with honey? Is that just me?
Haven't had tea in a while, so I
I
probably
think
won't
that's
pull
what
that
I'm
out.
getting because like the smell of like if you have tea, with honey, with a good amount of honey at night, and then you leave it in the cup overnight, and then you take out the tea bag the next morning, it's cold and but you still have that smell, and the
Hmm.
honey kind of like absorbs into it.
Yep.
That's kind of what I'm getting with this tonight. It's as you were talking, I smelled it and I was like, why did I just think of tea? So
I'll have to try that tonight. See if that's what I
yeah,
get in the morning.
yeah, I think it's my final consensus is like a tea bag with honey and a little bit of dried fruit, a little bit of like that new, it's not even like a charred oak, it's like like an oak, like an actual oak, because it's not there's no rough notes to this nose. It's all very
Hmm.
light and pleasant and sweet.
Yep.
um but yeah, I'm ready to drink this. So did you already take a sip?
Hmm.
Ah, man, you bastard.
I did it while you were saying I'm ready to drink this.
Well, hey, man. Cheers,
Cheers.
everybody. Cheers to everyone listening. See what we get out of this. First sip, as I say every episode, just goes down the hatch. I haven't had any whiskey today.
I I've started to chew on it on my first sip. Um, I was in a tasting with one of the Jim Beam reps, and he talked about chewing on your whiskey to get your your salivatory, or if that's the right word, glands going, because that
Really?
helps you pull more notes out.
I'm going to try that right now. Definitely makes it spicier. Are you getting a lot of spice from this?
Yeah, I get a cinnamon on it. I'm not sure if it's black or white pepper, um, but definitely has a bit of spice on it. Not anything that's going to burn your mouth, but um, it's probably definitely cinnamon. That's
I
what I'm getting.
This
Almost
is
like a faint cinnamon heart is what I'm getting.
a cinnamon heart.
Very faint.
What's a
Not that.
cinnamon heart?
Um,
Is that like a candy or something?
yeah, the candies around Valentine's Day. Um, Fireball is basically cinnamon heart.
Ah, okay. It's kind of like a hot tamale a little bit.
A little bit, but more cinnamon
More cinnamon.
heat focused. But yeah, hot tamale would be close to it.
Okay. Um, hmm. I'm getting a lot of I think I would say that cinnamon and but more like of like a barrel spice. I don't think it doesn't taste like a rye spice. It tastes more like a like an oaky
Yep.
almost like a dry spice that is
Hmm.
pulled from the barrel, which is surprising me because this is, I would only assume that this is a fairly young bourbon, considering the notes that we're getting from the nose and from the palate. But I, I'm not really getting a whole lot. Like I'm getting back notes of sweetness, but not a lot. Like that standard vanilla, and that's really it.
Yeah,
I think that's
this
it.
this one I get more stone fruits on than your standard vanillas and caramels. I don't find it to be too sweet at all. Um,
It's
I
definitely sweet, but it's not typical bourbon sweet, It's
yeah.
not it's not bursting with like a vanilla or a caramel, even like a butter, like those 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 sweet candied notes. I think it's more of like a cinnamon sweetness.
Hmm.
I think that's what the sweetness that I'm getting is. Maybe like I don't know if there's like a cinnamon vanilla candy out there or something, but it's definitely got more spice than you would think it does on the palate.
Yeah, from what you get on the nose to what you get on the palate. Um, it doesn't have that honey flavor in it. It doesn't have the caramel or the toffee that I was getting on the nose.
Um,
It's just kind of a light, spicy cinnamon, peppery pour is what I'm getting tonight with a bit of stone fruits mixed in. I can't tell you what stone fruits they are. There's just something in there.
so what did you have to eat before this, if anything? Because I had some pizza, so that might affect maybe like the acidity in my mouth from the sauce. Maybe that's why I'm getting a bit more of like a spicy note. I could just be pulling that out of my ass. I don't know,
No,
but
I think that's in there. There's cinnamon, nutmeg, like the baking spices are in there. Um, I had pork chops and tonight, so
oh, sounds pretty good.
nothing too crazy. Um, what I like about this bourbon is it coats your mouth well, um, and it leaves a taste there for it lasts after the sip. It doesn't fade, um, which you can get on younger bourbons. They just don't last.
And there
Um,
isn't an age statement on this bourbon either, so we don't really know how old it is.
I'm gonna
Um,
guess it's probably around 5 years because they do a 10-year release.
yeah, I was gonna say it's probably a typical. I think is there a legal limit for a straight bourbon? Do you know? Does it have to
One
be 4 years
1 day, I think
or
it
two
has to be.
years?
No, I think it has to be a new oak for 24 hours.
Oh, I'm way off on that. I thought
It
I
wouldn't
thought it's
it
well. I
wouldn't
guess it's
taste
not
good
even
after
a.
that.
I guess it's not even a straight bourbon. I thought it was just a small batch bourbon. Um, yeah, I would say probably 4 to 5 years.
Yeah,
Um,
that's kind of where I think most bourbons sit that don't have an age on them.
and there's no that I could see. There's no mash bill that's been disclosed for this. Um, I lean towards probably a higher um a higher corn, but also I feel like it has at least like a 10% rye to it as well.
Hmm.
If not more, maybe 10 to 15% rye, if I had to guess, and then
Could
a
be
little
where
bit
the
of malted
spice is
barley.
coming from.
That's my initial thoughts. Um, and it also is 45.7% ABV or 91.4 proof. So we're not sitting at a very high proof here. Um, what are you saying? What do you think in first thoughts as to an overall review? What are you thinking for a score?
Um, do you do your one? I don't remember. Do you do 1 through 10, or what's your 1 through 5? How do you score
No,
your
one
stuff?
through 10, 1 through 10. Well, you can score it however you want.
Yeah, I
I do
don't have
one
a
through
rating
10.
scale.
Um, or I guess it technically 0 through 10. But I use decimals too. So like
Yeah.
I'll go into that Dewey Decimal System and pull something out. So, what's your preliminary thoughts on this thing?
Yeah, taking the price point of what it's at in Ontario, which is I think mid 80s. I think we talked about that last time, whereas
We
you're buying
did.
it around the $50 range. Um, I think it's a solid bourbon, and I'd probably give it like an 8.25. But there's a lot of high quality bourbons that are $40 that compete with Michter's all day long that I can buy. So I have to bring it down at least a point, probably to a 7, because of that pricing.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. We're pretty similar in our pricing. Are you going for the record, because this is so official? You're going straight 7.0?
I'm gonna go straight 7.0 on it
Okay,
because it
I
lost
respect
it
that.
lost that full point on the price.
And the price here, I see it retail. I wrote down MSRP 40 to between $40 and $50. Um, I've even seen it a little bit above $50 before. But I've seen it as low as like $38 or $37.
Yeah.
So if that is a good price. I mean, if I could find this at sub 40s, this is a solid bourbon.
Hmm.
Um, but if I see this at 50s, then I'm passing on it 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
That being said, we'll say for argument's sake, I'll even give it, we'll say $45. Um, it's just not a overly, there's not a lot to it. I agree with you on the finish where, you're saying it coats your mouth well and it lingers. I do agree that it lingers, but it's not like a heavy linger. It
Hmm.
lingers very lightly, but it does stay there. And
Yep.
that I will give kudos, where kudos are due. It is a nice finish. Um, Overall with the notes, it's a solid bourbon. I'd probably say like I'm not going to go 7.0. I think that's a little low. I'd probably say for a $45 price point, a 7.6, I think is a fair
Yeah.
score. And if it was consistently sub 40s, then I might have the confidence to bring it up to an 8.0. Not that $5 makes a whole lot of difference, but it's just the principle of it,
Hmm.
really.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd agree with that. Like if we were buying it for $50 in Ontario, it would probably be around an eight and a
yeah,
quarter score. But when I look at stuff I can buy, I can get Wild Turkey Rare Breed for $60, and
I just bought a Wild Turkey Rare Breed for $50, but
yeah, so add the Canadian conversion, and we're paying the same for it.
oh, that's
Um,
right. What is the Canadian conversion?
I think we're like around 25 cents now on the
And
dollar.
by
So
and do you what is your this is gonna just be a really dumb question. I'm gonna come off as so naive. What currency do Canadians use?
Canadian.
So it says like a Canadian dollar?
Yep.
Like, do you have the same thing? Like, do you have like pennies and nickels and all that stuff? Or
We don't have pennies anymore. We have nickels, quarters, dimes. Our $1 bill is a coin. Our $2 bill is a coin, and then everything up above that, 5, 10, 20, 50, 100. Those are all bills.
interesting, a $1 coin. I don't like that. How do you go to the strip club?
Well, they probably love it because of that.
I
Gotta
do
give it
like
vibes.
it's it's a good point. But if someone's just balling on a budget and they're just throwing dollar coins at them,
A lot,
the
lot of
strippers are over
blind
there, they're
strippers. A
huddling.
lot of blind strippers in Canada.
They're just bobbing and weaving like Floyd Mayweather. Just you know, dude, that's not good. Come on, Canada. At least make $1 bills for the strip club.
Yeah,
These are professionals. You gotta treat them like professionals. I have such a funny strip club story for you, Darryl. I'll tell you either off air or the next time we do this. I kind
Fair
of
enough.
want to tell you the next time we do this because I want it to be on record.
All right.
It's a little bit too long for right now though, but I definitely want to. I definitely want to tell you. Um, Interesting though that it's $1 coins. That's funny, man. I'm just imagining someone named like Caramel up there, just like twerking, and then all of a sudden she's just getting pelted by coins, and she has to turn
they're
around
just
and
they're rolling
cover up.
everywhere. People are throwing them back.
She's just throwing them back.
Utter
Keep your
chaos.
keep your dirty coin. Well, okay, so we're right around the same ballpark here. You gave Michter's a 7.0. I gave it a 7.6. It's definitely a quality bourbon. Don't want anyone to think we're hating on Michter's. I'll always most likely have Michter's on my shelf. It's really a bourbon to me that it brings back a lot of good memories. A lot of my first bourbon experiences was with Michter's. Um, and I really enjoy it. It's just, there are better bourbons at the price point. But something special about Michter's. There is really something there with it. It's got something else to it that makes it like almost a commodity as to like I could see this being allocated, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's rare up here, and people do buy it quickly because it's Michter's. They see it online. They see people talking about it. The 10 years, the 20-year-old releases, people know what those are all about.
All right.
But I think being a master distiller, which I'm not, I'd like to see what this does at 100 proof or 105 proof and see what that changes.
Let it open up a little bit. If we both find a Michter's 10-year, we should hop back on here and do a compare and contrast.
Yeah, fair
Um,
enough.
I don't think I know I can find it. I don't know if I'm paying like $130 for it, but
So,
if we both end up owning a bottle one day, we should hop back on and say and compare and contrast, see which one's better, the Michter's and the Michter's 10-year,
yeah, yeah,
keeping
it'd be
price into
interesting to see what
mind.
it's like. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it. It's getting a little bit late here. So I gotta head to bed, but nothing better than a little nightcap before heading off. What do you want the people to know, Darryl? First of all, you can follow Darryl at Whiskey Sith on Instagram.
Yeah.
We'll start there. Is there anything else that you want to tell the people here on Who Gives a Dram?
Yeah. Give me a follow on Instagram if you like my stuff, and if you're looking for something else to watch on whiskey reviews, you can find Northern Proof on YouTube or Spotify. And
Mhm.
we're just all about sharing good whiskey and letting the proof do the talking.
I love that. I love that tagline. Northern Proof is a very good podcast. You guys follow it on all the platforms. They do a really good job reviewing whiskey. I've listened to all of them, and I like them a lot. Um, Darryl, Whiskey Sith, thank you for coming on, brother. This was fun. We're gonna do this again very soon, um, and I'm looking forward to talking again.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, Connor.
Awesome. Well, Darryl, thanks again, brother, and we will talk soon.
Sounds good.
Well, there you have it, you guys. Had a very, very good conversation with my friend Darryl, aka the Whiskey Sith, over a very, very solid dram of Michter's Small Batch Bourbon. I hope you guys enjoyed our conversation. Darryl is definitely going to come back on the podcast, and I look forward to speaking with him again. So, before we end the show, make sure you're following Darryl at Whiskey Sith on Instagram. Make sure you are subscribed to his podcast with his pals, The Northern Proof. They're available wherever podcasts are available as well. Again, linked in the description below. And just make sure you're supporting everything that he does, because he's a great guy, and I'm happy that we've gotten the chance to get to know each other. And last but not least, make sure you're following Who Gives a Dram on every platform: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I tweet sometimes, and TikTok. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Make sure you're liking the YouTube videos. Make sure you're leaving a comment on the videos. Make sure you're leaving 5-star reviews and ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts, and anything you can do to help the show, you guys. Make sure you're telling a friend if you like the show. It's really the best way for us to grow. So, you guys, until next week, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'm looking forward to another week of whiskey drinking. So Nick Bossy is going to play me out with Pretty New Diamond. And you guys, don't forget, whiskey is the water of life. So let's start living.
Up in New England, that girl sure loved me. We got together and brought things to life. I did buy her a pretty new diamond, and asked that sweet woman if she'd be my wife. There was a kind of feeling love songs are made of. With that sweet woman, spend the rest of my life. She came along, I was hurting, but at the end of my tunnel I saw no light. Fast forward a few months later, she broke my heart and I can't keep going. Guess I'll just sit here and get drunk tonight. Vows they meant nothing and she ran to a stranger, and with Johnny Walker I'm passing my time. And I asked the Lord, what should I do? But I'm too drunk to hear him tonight. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing, I'm so lonesome I could cry. Gave me back that pretty new diamond, and broke my heart a second time. But I got the last laugh when I pawned off her ring, 'cause I bought me a dime bag and a case of Coors Light. And I asked the Lord, what should I do? But I'm too drunk to hear him tonight. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing, I'm so lonesome I could cry. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing, I'm so lonesome I could